Hello everyone and a happy Tuesday. Today we're going to talk a little bit about just some of the differences between the models of Instant Pots, but I would love it if you ask me any questions that you might have regarding your Instant Pot, if it's size or cooking something or really the floor is open. So what I wanted to do, because a lot of people, and I touched on this a little bit last week, but I thought it deserved its own video, is that the different models get people confused. So the very first model was a Luxe, and it doesn't have the handle like this. So most of the others do. What the Luxe doesn't do that the others do is a yogurt function. If you're not going to make yogurt, if you're not planning on proofing bread in your Instant Pot, or making something like Uttapams or dosa batter or some other fermented thing, you don't need that. And you can do it other ways too, like even Uttapam batter, which is like a batter made with lentils and grains that you puree. You can ferment that in the oven with the light bulb on overnight. So don't think that, it depends too sometimes when things are on sale. Sometimes the Duo Plus or the Duo Plus and the Ultra can be on sale. When they're on sale, then sometimes I change my mind. But like, it just depends. Are you paying extra for a function that you're just not going to use? And you can get Luxes now at Walmart. I think you can get the fancy, pretty Pioneer Woman ones even. So you have a lot of options available to you. And the Luxe is not a bad model. It doesn't mean that its manual pressure cooker function doesn't work. It works fine. And so you guys tend to be a lot like me and think that the more new, the more stuff, the more bells and whistles, the better it's going to be, and now you will have the latest, greatest. And I've gone ahead and bought some of the different ones. I do not have a Max yet. I'm going to contact Instant Pot and see if they'll send me one, because $200 to test it is a little much. Some of the other fancier ones I got on sale during the holidays. So, and do you guys have any questions or say hi? Tell me what kind of, if you have an Instant Pot, tell me what model and size you have. If you don't have an Instant Pot, tell me how big your family is. And that way maybe I can help you kind of figure out what Instant Pot's right for you. And if you already have one, sometimes it's nice to have two Instant Pots. I'm not trying to pressure you, but having a 3-quart that you can, if you don't already have a rice cooker, the first thing I did was get a 3-quart and a 6-quart. And I use them almost every day. It's not a have to. Remember, we can also do things in layers and cook multiple things together. So I'm going to show you a Duo. And I know the lights are bouncing off of this a little bit. So, and you can see what model you have here. So Instant Pot Duo Mini. And it's off now. And you can see a lot of the different things. So this is pretty much the main gist of an Instant Pot. These buttons, soup, meat, bean, chili, and some of the fancier ones, there might be cake or egg. Those are all just preset pressure cooker settings. Rice, porridge, steam. Steam is a totally different one. Yogurt is a different one. Sometimes you'll see manual instead of this, and I can show you that on my larger one as well before we get through. This changes pressure level from like low to high. I think some of the Luxes don't have low pressure. You would only use low pressure, let's say if you found that when you cook asparagus or broccoli for 0 minutes, and quick pressure release, that it's still too soggy for you, then you would try low pressure. So it's just going to be for super delicate things. And most people do just fine with 0 minutes. And so if you're confused, remember 0 minutes means the pressure is built up, which means there's heat, kind of like preheating an oven. And then when you're doing quick release, you're kind of stopping the cooking here. When you do a natural pressure release, the cooking continues until you release it. So that's something else to know as well. Okay. So back to this. You can delay the start. So all these things are pretty similar. And the only difference in some of these would be, actually, I'll go ahead and get this. I'm not going to plug this one in. You can just see the difference in the buttons. So this is a 6-quart next to a mini. Okay, and so it does have a few other buttons like poultry, still soup, meat, stew, bean, chili, poultry. Those are all pressure cooker presettings. The multigrain setting can be really interesting because it does have like a sub setting where you can kind of soak your long cooking grains like oat groats, spelt, or wheat berries. So it cooks it some in some warm water kind of as a quick soak, and then it does the soaking. We still have porridge and steam. Now you'll see manual. So in some recipes you're going to see manual. Some recipes you're going to see pressure cook. I try to do manual / pressure cook, but these are exactly the same thing. Manual just basically meant that you're picking the time. And so I think it's perfectly fine. You don't need anything super fancy. Now, does that mean you can't put the soup button on? No. But I think it's better for you and your cooking in your kitchen if you kind of learn a little bit of the timing. Like, for instance, if I'm doing a potato soup or something that has something hard like carrots, potatoes, rutabagas, depending on how big or small I cut them, I usually start at 10 minutes high pressure if I'm making a soup. And kind of knowing that makes it a lot easier in other things as well. Let me bring over the Duo Plus and give you a gander at that. It has a few other things that are different. I thought this is a 6-quart Duo Plus. And see how, okay, here we go. You can probably see it has cake, egg, and oh, all these have saute. I haven't even talked about the saute function, but everybody has a saute, including a Lux. But so all of those, again, just because there's an egg setting or a cake setting, that doesn't mean you can only make a cake using that setting. Obviously, we're cooking vegan, so we're not making eggs anyhow. But you can cook a cake without the cake button. And I think what happens is a lot of people get confused about that. So they look at these buttons and go, I want to do these things, so therefore I need to spend an extra $100, $50, $60 to get this one. The Duo Plus does almost everything that the Duo does. I think the sterilize function is within the yogurt on the Duo, and it's a separate setting here on the Plus. But honestly, I mean, maybe if you had babies or something, you might use the sterilize function. I've never used it personally. And things go a little bit different. So these buttons make this part set up just slightly different. Just enough that when I'm teaching a class, I have little hiccups about it. And I always kind of try to go back to my Duo. So I'd love to know what model you guys have. So please just jump right in the comments. I think last week the comments weren't working. So actually let me jump over here and see if I'm getting comments somewhere else. Then we'll talk about the Ultra. And if you let's see here. Because I did realize once I got off last week, that there were a lot of questions and I saw absolutely none of them. And I would never not answer your questions on purpose. And if you ask a question in the comments of one of these videos ever, I will go back and answer it if I didn't get to answer it on. Yep, I'm not seeing any comments on my thing, but I do see comments here. So someone has an Instant Pot Plus Mini, and you haven't used it yet. That's Christine. Thanks for joining. Let's see what else we've got. Someone else has a 6-quart Duo Plus. And like I'm saying, if you have a Duo Plus, there's nothing wrong with it. If you have an Ultra, there's nothing wrong with it. What I just don't want you to have the mentality that I often get, because I thought, oh, I'm going to get the Ultra. Everything's going to be different and better and perfect because I'm spending X amount more dollars. And that's not the case. It's just not. It's cool, and I'll show you. I had to, and it's a little bit different. Let me go back and change cameras. It's a little harder for me trying to look at the Facebook and this. There we go. But I would rather be able to answer your questions, for sure. Okay, let's see if I can see. Oh, good. I can see some stuff live here. Okay. Hi, Julie. Thanks for joining us. Let us know what size Instant Pot you have and what model, if you can. So what's interesting about this one is it has almost all digital. It has this knob. Okay. So let's see if we can cancel this. Can you guys yeah, you can see it blinking. That's how I go through to what would normally be the buttons. And I'm not sure what the ultra setting is. I'm going to have to look that up. I haven't used it. But usually you're going to be on pressure cook. Then I press this button to say, yes, I really want to be on pressure cook. And then this starts beeping. Does anybody have an ultra at all? So then I click there, and then you can go through all of these different things. So I can go through the time. And then if I wanted to do this, the main difference between the ultras and the others, besides just doing this a little bit differently, is there's a start button. And you have to hit the start button or it will not start. With the Duos and the Luxes, there's not a start button. And what happens is as soon as you get it all set up, it's just going to beep. And that way you know it's actually going on. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to see if anybody else has a comment. Okay. Then let's look at the tops of these. And, oh, one other thing I'll just show you really quick. I have a Fagor model. So there's also an Instant Pot is used to talk about multi-cookers the way Kleenex is used interchangeably with tissue. It's a brand or a crock pot and a slow cooker, right? So crock pot is a brand, and we just know it as that. But there are other brands like GoWise, Fagor. Fagor, I think, was around before Instant Pots. I know that someone tested my very first book in a Fagor multi-cooker. And then also with the multi-cookers, there can be some confusion because something that does multiple functions but does not have a pressure cooker function can be labeled a multi-cooker. So if you're looking through some different things, like a Ninja slow cooker is sometimes called a multi-cooker because it can bake a cake, it has a saute setting, it has some of these other settings. So just make sure if you're looking to do Instant Pot recipes or electric pressure cooker that has the pressure cooker setting, and that's really important. Actually the Fagors were more expensive than the Instant Pots. And I'm not sure if the Fagor is going to continue making things in America right now, so that's something to kind of keep up with. GoWise has been making some things for a while. They are often a little cheaper. They do not, and actually this one doesn't either, they do not have the nice stainless steel insert. They have either a ceramic or a non-stick insert. And I know that that's a deal breaker for some of you. So those are super important. There is also an Instant Pot gem. And the Instant Pot gem is a lot like, and that's GEM. It's a lot like the Ninja slow cooker. So it's actually slow cooker with other multiple functions that does not have a pressure cooker setting. So I've been in Target or wherever constantly explaining that to someone because they're like, well, this one's cheaper. And that's why. So it's just important for you to educate yourself about some of that. Another thing that's kind of cool about the Ultra, so most of these are going to have a pressure release valve like this, and it comes off, and it's okay to take it off if for some reason you ever see it where it doesn't go down right. You just pop it off and put it here. And it has sealing and venting. So if you're pressure cooking or doing something like that, you're always going to be on sealing, right? Venting is going to be when you're releasing it. So we can always do it softly. And if you go and see some of the other videos, I try to let the pressure out almost every video. And some people this makes nervous because it does come out here. And as long as you have a little towel and you don't cover up these holes, you can do it like that. And let me show you one other way. If I can find, oh, this is an accessory that comes with your Instant Pot, or one of the accessories, and they have these little holes, and that's something else that you can do. So you can be a little farther away if it makes you more comfortable. With the Ultra, it's a whole new deal. So this still comes up, but there's no sealing or venting, right? It just knows when I'm doing it that it's gonna be sealing it. This is how I'll release pressure, and I think you might see it better this way. See how it goes up a little bit and back down? It's not really super noticeable, but that way my hand isn't near. So that function would just be good if you know that it makes you nervous. If it doesn't make you nervous, it doesn't make me nervous. There are also things like the Dragon that on Duo, you can kind of come here, and then that way I'm not near it as well. Some people just get a piece of tubing, I think from Home Depot. So there's all different ways that you can make yourself more comfortable with that. Let me see if I refresh this, if I see anything. So that kind of gives you the overview in general about what things can do between a Luxe, a Duo, a Duo Plus, and an Ultra. Now, what I have found is most recipes were written for a 6-quart. I know the recipes in my book were written for a 6-quart because that was the only game in town. So now we have 3 quarts and we have 8 quarts in addition to 6 quarts. So I do find that if someone tells me a recipe burned for them, 95% of the time it's because they're cooking it in an 8-quart slow cooker. 8-quart Instant Pot. So what you need to do is make sure you have enough liquid in there for that model. So I know you don't like it when I tell you this, but it is good to look over your manual. And it'll tell you some basic things like that, and that's kind of important. Trying to think of what else I want to tell you. Also, sometimes in the Ultra I found, I'm not sure if it's the way the heating happens in the Ultra, if it's maybe a little more efficient or hotter. I do find that thick things like oatmeal or split pea soup tend to burn more, or go to the burn notice more on an Ultra than it does a Duo or a Duo Plus. And that's just something to know. So if you find that you're getting a burn notice, what you want to do is next time you make that, you want to add extra water. And maybe just make a note in the cookbook or the recipe that you're using. With, let's say you're cooking a split pea soup. You've cooked it for 10 minutes. The split peas are thick. You're cooking something else with it. I do one with navy beans. And if my navy beans aren't cooked, then I can't actually put the lid on and start cooking the pressure again, because it's going to give me a burn notice, because now everything's heavy and thick and near the bottom. But there's an easy way to combat that, and then I'm just going to put it to saute and finish it off as if it was on top of the stove. So that's really easy to do as well. So those are just kind of some troubleshooting ideas. Do you guys have any questions in general about some of this? Typically, any recipe for a 6-quart could be cooked in a 3-quart if you cut it in half. There are some recipes that you don't need to cut in half, and I'm trying to do better about putting, this can be cooked in a 3-quart. I do have an 8-quart. I don't use it very often because I'm already cooking a lot, developing recipes, and we we have 5 soups still from Saturday's soup class. So the idea of doubling a recipe is just not great for our 2-person household. But if you have a 10-person household or an 8-person household, it might be the best choice for you. Or if you want to cook once a month and put everything in the freezer, there's all different reasons that you might choose to cook one over another. So let me see what else I can think of. And if you have some questions, if you're trying to figure out which ones to get, and I would almost always, if you ask me in the moment of a sale, if you could get a 6-quart for the same price you usually can get a 3-quart, I would probably say go ahead and get the 6-quart unless you have super limited space. Like a 3-quart's great for people in RVs, college rooms, probably big city, tiny apartments, and things like that. So there's always a reason to get one of these. It's going to fit in somebody's life very well. And that's pretty much it. I always try to get the cheapest one that meets my needs. And I get a lot of questions about the Ultras. And again, I don't know much about the Max because I haven't tried it yet. I did have someone in my class last weekend who had one. I do know that $200 seems like a lot for an Instant Pot for me right now when you can get them so much cheaper. And that's for a 6-quart. It is, Max says don't buy Max. That's Max, my dog. He doesn't like this idea. It's too much money. But it does like sous vide cooking, though I've read some reviews back and forth that were not, they felt like that it wasn't just really ready for prime time, but it wasn't the one that's for sale now. Also, you're supposed to be able to do pressure canning with the Max, but I haven't seen any of the canning associations or the government canning people say that you can can in it. And personally, I would not can in it until it passed all those tests. Because pressure canning is a much more delicate business than hot water bath canning. And you could hot water bath can in something like this, though it's if you wanted to. Because then you're using something that has a lot of acid in it, and so the bacteria isn't going to grow. When you're pressure canning, you can do things like beans. But that's also, if you don't get up to the high temperature that it needs to get to, it means that it could be dangerous to eat. So again, I'll keep an eye out and I'll let you guys know what I see about that. Hey, Miss Jenny and Miss Donna, it's good to see you guys here. But yeah, so the Max right now, I just don't see why I would pay $200 for it. And if I decide I'm wrong, you will be the first to know. I like my Ultra just fine. I will say that because it has the start button and none of the others do, I have walked away and not started my dinner. And that's a problem. So if you're switching from something like a Duo to an Ultra, you might even want to put a little Post-it note on there to remind yourself to push start, or you will be as sad as I was. And it was no fun at all. Yeah, and Jenny from Pastry Chef Online says she doesn't play with that whole pressure canning thing. And even, so let's say I had a stovetop pressure cooker. I cannot pressure can in that either. You actually buy a special stovetop pressure canner. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is there's also another brand out and about that says they can pressure can, and that's not been proven at all. And I just don't want to see any of you guys get sick. It would make me very, very sad. Hi, Angie. Thanks for joining in. Do you guys have any questions about the different models at all? Because today we're just kind of doing an overview. I find that in my classes I'm getting these questions more and more. And so I'm also going to write about it for plantbasedinstantpot.com. And if you look up at the top where the description is for this video, I also have a discount code or a discount link for you guys to take my class this Saturday, which is a refilming of Class 1, Start Cooking in Your Instant Pot. It was my very, very first class last year, and so we're going to redo it now that we have better cameras and everything like that. We're going to talk about some of the details of cooking in your Instant Pot and some of the little details that we've talked about here. And we're going to cook a few different things too. We'll probably make a chai. A lot of times I will make tea instead of doing the water test. And the water test is a way you could also do the water test and make like iced tea with it. I just hate to go through the effort to do something and not end up with something to eat or drink. And that's just me. I'm glad you're on here live too, Angela. And did you have any questions today? Because in general, and you guys will be able to go back and watch this, so you can save this, and if you think you're going to be buying an Instant Pot in the next few months, go for it. I would love to see you in my class. So with a discount link, you get $5 off, so it's $30. And I think the class last time, most classes are between 2 and 3 hours. All the recipes will have oil-free options. I will talk about salt-free options. And if you use oil and salt, you can do that too. So I just try to make sure that it's going to fit with whatever diet that you need. And you'll be able to ask questions live if you come to the class that I'm filming Saturday at 10. And it's 10 in the morning, or you can rewatch you can rewatch the class as many times as you want, or just not attend live and watch it later. It's completely up to you. I film the class live in a private Facebook group that I will send information out about. And hi, Tina. Thanks for joining. Tina, Tina and Angela both what kind of, what model Instant Pot do you have and what size? Because I'm trying to just get an idea of what everybody has around. I think that a lot of people have 6 quarts because those are the ones that for a long time went on sale the most often as well. Angela has 3 of them. I feel you. How many do I have? 4, 5, I have 6. And 1 in the box. I did buy an 8-quart Instant Pot Duo. I just haven't opened it yet. I'm still going back and forth if I want to play with that one. And Tina says she has the 2 biggest sizes, so 6 and 8. Oh, and one other thing I didn't even mention is that GoWise has an 8, 10, and 12 quart. And so I have their 8 quart. And I will say a lot of times because I'm not cooking as much, that I find that the GoWise 8 quart takes a little longer to come up to pressure. But the other day I wanted to test a 6 quart recipe in the 3 quart, and it was real close to the line about don't fill past here. And it took a really long time for it to come up to pressure. Was it because it was freezing outside? I don't know. So, hey Elizabeth, I hope you made it home okay. She was actually out in my neck of the woods this weekend, and she has 2, a Luxe and a Duo, both 6 quarts. And Angela has 2 Duos and is it Kasori? And tell me, is there anything about the Kasori you like or don't like, or does it seem pretty much just the same as your Instant Pots? I haven't played with that brand, so I would love some information if you wouldn't mind sharing it with us. And do you have any questions? And you can ask questions not just about what I'm talking about as far as models, sizes, and things like that. Do you have any kind of Instant Pot questions? A burning need to ask, are you trying to figure out how to make yogurt or why you weren't happy with how your oats cooked or anything like that? And I'm not seeing a whole lot of that, but I would, if a brilliant question comes to you once I'm offline, just come back to here and go ahead and put the comment in, and I'll come back and answer it. And I would love to see any and all of you guys, even if you've cooked in your Instant Pot, we'll still do some new recipes. If you click through the link, it will give you the page and tell you what we're going to cook and things that we're going to go over in the class. And that's all I can think of today. Here we go. One more thing. Okay, Angela does not like the Kasori. It doesn't have a manual option, and you have to remember to hit the start button. So it sounds like it kind of has the start button issue of the Ultra. What am I cooking on Saturday? That's a great question. Let me go look. I am cooking Instant Pot chai, and we're going to use that as our water test. So if you've not done anything in your Instant Pot, if it's still in the box, we can talk about it from there. All questions will be answered. We're going to make steel cut oats. We're going to make a spiced lentils and rice dish, and making soup on the fly. So I tend to like to just kind of see whatever's in the kitchen, and I'll talk to you about how I generally would make a soup with whatever I find in the fridge. And so it is a fairly basic class. You can also go through that link and see the other classes that I think I have about 10 other ones. I have a pot and pot class. I have a winter soup class, and each one, if you click on it, will take you to exactly what we're going to cook in that class. So you can take any of the classes that have already been filmed live, or in the future, I'm planning on doing about 2 a month this year. So I'll keep you guys updated to that as well. I always post on the Plant-Based Instant Pot Facebook page, the blog, and my my group, which is Vegan Recipes Cooking with Kathy Hester. Let me go back and see if there were any other questions. Okay, then I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. If you guys have more questions about the class or your Instant Pots, just let me know. And also, if there's something you would really like to see me make in my Instant Pot next week, because I'll take that in consideration too. Have a great day.